Hello, friends. Welcome to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host, Julie Jancius. If you love this podcast, please be our angel. Ask a friend to listen, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, leave a positive review, and share a screenshot of this podcast on your Facebook or Instagram stories. So, my dad passed away in 2015. We weren't talking, and it took a month for his family to track me down. Before I ever knew he was gone, I started hearing from him in heaven. It consumed me. How is communication with the other side even possible? I left my corporate gig, studied with spiritual teachers on every coast, and worked with my angels to figure out the answers. Today, my mission is teaching you how to raise your vibration, shift your thoughts, trust your intuition, develop your unique spiritual gifts, and connect with your loved ones and angels on the other side. Friends, when you have these tools, life really does become heaven on earth. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. And friends, today our guest is none other than Kimberly Braun. So I have to tell you this background story. You know that I went to that beautiful IANS conference recently that just felt like heaven on earth. I showed up, I was kind of getting there more right on time, walking in a few minutes late the very first day. Didn't really know what to expect. And here is Kimberly on stage. So here is this goddess on the stage, and I feel energy palpably, and I just feel her radiating out this beautiful energy of love to the entire room that just felt so warm and so loving and so wonderful. Doing this work, I'm normally used to kind of sending out that love. And so to be on the receiving end and to just absorb that love was so wonderful. So I remember finding Kimberly after and being like, will you come on the podcast? You have this amazing story and just energy. And I just know the audience would love you. So thank you, Kimberly, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I feel very blessed to be here. I really do. When the invitation came forward, especially, given the energy of the invite, the name, everything about who you are and what you're doing is so resonant with my own existence. So it was really easy to give a yes.
Yay! There's so much that I want to ask you about, but I really want to start here. You have this near-death experience story. You're younger. You're 19 years old.
Yes.
And what you experience on the other side is different. And from what I'm picking up from Spirit and the angels of hearing people's after-death stories, and I just want to side note to the listeners, I promise this isn't going to become a near-death podcast, but the angels are just bringing in so much information right now about in my readings, this is what you've been seeing. And in this is what you've been seeing. So it's kind of like putting together missing puzzle pieces for me. But it appears that everybody's near-death experience is not the same. And that when they go to the other side, it's almost like they're getting what their soul needs for their life journey here if they're going to return. So walk us through your experience.
Right. And I agree with you. And I think to the listeners, speaking about these aspects of being that influence our life story here and yet are not contained by our life story.
Yeah.
There's a real hunger for that, especially with the growing uncertainties and the way fears in humanity continue to burst in new ways out in the world through situations that happen. And so I think it's very valuable. So it doesn't need to be an NDE podcast to be open to the fact that we need to be given the assurance that our being here has meaning and has value. And ultimately, you're not going to find it in your limited life story.
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be found in the expansiveness of your being. So, so I just needed to add that
I
extra
love
little
that.
bit.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Add away. Add away.
Oh, you're lovely. That's sweet. That's sweet. Yes, I came into this world with the veil very thin. And I won't give the long story of that, but I found that in my life events, over and over again, I was plunged into a deeper experience of reality. And that reality was very multidimensional and very outside of time.
Yeah.
And so, given that, when I had my NDE, in a way, it wasn't an introduction to an understanding of myself that I was not already aware of on some level.
Yeah.
But it did work with where I was in that moment. And so I thought your statement about receiving what we need was right on. Mm-hmm. What happened for me when I left my body is I was immediately experiencing myself as the luminous void. And it was, if you had to give words to it, in one way, it was absent of all light as we know it through our physical eyes. Mm-hmm. But it was only luminous. Mm-hmm. And what happened in that is I had this direct experience of myself still as a Kimberly and myself as consciousness.
Oh, so you're yourself and kind of separate, but at the same time, simultaneously, you're part of the whole.
Yeah. And was the whole. Was the whole.
Was the whole.
Was the whole.
Wait, we got to stop right there. What does that feel like when you are the whole? And here's what I want to say to people, because I've said this before on the podcast, but maybe once in 700 episodes, so it bears repeating. I used to be scared of that void because, like you, I came in with the veil being very thin, was talking about angels and being in heaven when I was just 2. And I was scared of that word void because I was afraid. And I remember getting into this work in my 30s and talking to God and saying, I don't want to go to that place one day. I don't want to go to that void because I don't want to be without my daughter. I don't want to be without my husband, my mom, my sister, my family. And God came in and said, oh, no, no. That is the place where you are all things all at once. Everything that you've ever been before, everything that you will be in the future, you are with everyone all at once. And my mind can't even really fathom that. So to have you describe it would be so helpful.
Right. And even the words, they of course, these stories, they fall short, but perhaps some descriptors can let you touch in on it energetically.
Yeah.
Because on the sensory level, because I wasn't in my body anymore, so I wasn't assimilating through things through my senses in this body. There was a level of contentment and equity and equanimity and all expansive freedom that I would say that I was filled with joy, but that would be giving human emotion to it because it wasn't like that. Or I could say I was filled with a satisfaction or a sense of context or meaning or all those words, they didn't exist. They literally did not exist.
Wow. So you used words equanimity and another E word that I'm not familiar with. Equity. Yeah. Equity meaning kind of like we're all whole, all unified, all equal.
Yes. Okay. The wholeness. When we touch in on what we call oneness in my mind, there's a certain equitability that emerges from that. And so it was that in its fullness. And now when I was there, I didn't have any reflections about all the people I loved or my life up to that date, or that didn't exist there. And I know many who have near death, they're bringing aspects of that story. They're important. For some reason, that had no fundamental importance. It mattered, but it was already so perfect that there was no story in my story in being in that moment. And I think what was most illuminating was there was a sense that I was communing in love as love.
What does that mean? Go into
And
that.
right? How do you go into communing? Feel about a time when you feel like you merge with something, like something that seems like it was outside of you, but then you merged in a way that maybe it was somebody you loved. And you have this moment of dropping in so wordlessly into that love that even though the thing or the person is not you, you can't really distinguish yourself because you're both that love itself. I was in that, and it was so all I longed for. The aching and the longing that had brought me to that moment, because there was a restlessness that had risen up in my heart at that point in my life. It was completely fulfilled. I was being given, I think we ache to come home to ourselves. And I think a lot of the dysfunction that happens in our lives is because we don't know where to find that path or that self or that awakening. And I was given it. I got the direct experience of it that couldn't happen rooted in just the body and the story. And so in that place, there was this wordless, and in it, everything within me that had a misperception around myself dissolved. Because I was a teenager. I was so concerned about my place in the world and my own sense of holiness or not. And I mean, I had a lot of self-judgment and self-blame going on in that period of my life. And so within that happening, I was gone. There was no place. It wasn't healed. It wasn't spoken to. There wasn't a message. That's very powerful, I think, when we receive the messages that heal us on a soul level. But that's not what happened. What happened is the illumination happened in such a way that literally whatever wasn't resonant with it just simply didn't exist. It just wasn't there.
Wow.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Now, the angels are saying, as you're speaking, there's this massive, beautiful angel to one side of you. And then I feel like all of your motherly lineages on the other side. And they keep saying that you come from like wise women where this is passed down generation after generation, even if they weren't able to talk about it at the time, that they were very deeply in touch spiritually themselves. Even through their pain, their trauma. But they keep saying, your angels, that there is a way to bring through that healing in this life, that there is a way to release everything that's not serving us right now. Have you ever kind of sat with that?
Yeah, I would say that, are they saying it for me personally or for us collectively or both? Or
for the listeners, that
okay.
that we don't have to like wait and collectively, that we don't have to wait to be on the other side to release. I'm so grateful to those who keep this show going through your support. Get 3 certifications in one and start your own business when you take the Angel Reiki School online or in person. You get both for the price of one when you register. The Angel Reiki School is in person this November and January. My angel membership gives you the ability to work with your personal angels and your heavenly loved ones every day to hear your own angel messages. Sign up for the annual option today and receive a free 1-hour reading with me to feel closer than ever to your angels. I'm doing readings again out of my house and on Zoom. It's $144 for a half an hour reading or $288 for an hour. Or book me to do your readings at your next party worldwide. The Angel Reiki School membership, readings, and parties are all booked online at theangelmedium.com. That's angelmedium.com. Thank you again for supporting my work and the work of the angels. Now, let's get back to the show.
Actually, I think our embodiment as consciousness is the consciousness itself wanting to fully realize. So there isn't something we need to work out on the other side.
Yeah.
That in a mysterious way, because being in form is being in these bodies is just one way of our being happening.
Yeah.
And that taking place, that beingness in this form has a unique gift to it. And we don't really realize that gift. And I would say I continue to explore its many expressions. But this life itself, I don't think we're meant to heal so that something happens. I think the awakening itself in this form is the celebration of ourselves as the divine. And it's, if there is an intention, the intention is that we get to wake up here. We get to experience it without limitation. So yes.
Okay, so I had interrupted your flow. You were
No
going
worries.
into talking about you're in this luminous void in your near-death experience. And then what happened?
There, in this communing that happened, there was one thing that I noticed. And I noticed that the quality of freedom was not like any freedom that we usually recognize here in this form. And there, freedom is a big part of my path. That particular realization: what is freedom? What does it mean? And so that was really big for me. And then within that, the only time I actually heard something, which was the consciousness within me, but as me, but outside of me at the same time, all happening, was there was a question that came to me that was wordless, but also like a whisper. And that was, do you want to return or not? And nothing in it was a message of you're meant to return to be an instrument for this, or you have a mission, or your work isn't complete, and there's validity in those near-death experiences. Many people have those where they realize they're meant to go back for some reason. And what dissolved me into such a state of bliss was I was given complete freedom. And in that freedom, I experienced the freedom of my own being. And it didn't have to have any conditions. There were no conditions. There wasn't I wasn't being tested to give a better or a worse choice. I wasn't, there was no agenda other than just the utter freedom, which then let me come into contact with something that's at the essence of being a human being. And that is we are a divine desire. And I dropped into myself as divine desire. And then in that place, completely free, and just tapping into the Kimberly as the divine desire. I'm giving a lot of words to this that didn't happen in the experience.
Oh.
So I dropped just there, just in the rawness of the sweetness of myself as divine desire. I experienced that me, Kimberly, the divine desire, wanted to return. Period.
Wow.
That was it.
That was it. Okay, but that wasn't it. There's so much more. Okay, going back to that void. Did you feel like there was an element in there? You call it divine desire, but could you feel an element of creation or creating while you're in that void?
You know what I felt? I love that word, and I think that we are that. I think I felt a word that contained that in its fullness, but wasn't quite that. And I would say the paradox of being potential and actual at the time. So creation comes from an agency, a certain movement, right? An arising. And in that movement,
Interesting. Oh, sorry, keep going.
yeah, in that arising itself is a form of creation, no matter whether it completes to the fulfillment of that arising or whether the arising itself, we discover just the arising of desire itself is its own creation experience. So I would say that I experienced that all things are possible, potential, actual. And there is something very life-giving when we wake up to the reality that we are that. We're that potentiality and we're that actuality.
Ooh, we are going so deep, and I am just loving this. So, when I am in my readings, the angels come in all the time and they talk about this place called the realm of all possibilities. And I do feel like it's in that whole, that space of oneness, all that is. And in that realm of all that is, I want to draw people back because I really want them to connect this to their heart center and their mind as well. You said a rising of desire is like a process and an experience itself. And that makes so much sense to me because I've gone through so many periods in my life where it's like I get these directives from God, universe, source. Okay, this is the path. Go do this. So I'm a doer. I get to work. I go do the thing. And then it's kind of like, God says, okay, Julie, you did that. You did a great job. And now it's time to take a pause. It's time to take a break. It's time to rest. Maybe you're going to go through a couple of things, but then you're going to get another directive. And my humanness comes in and is like, oh, no, God, I don't like uncertainty. I just want to keep going with what I did before because I know it. But the angels take us to this realm of all possibilities. And I so felt it as part of that pause where they're in the pause, this thing happens where there is a rise of a desire. And that really is an experience. It's not something that I naturally enjoy, but I am learning to enjoy as I go along life.
You know, it's so natural to have tension around these seeming contradictory parts of ourselves. Well, wait, if I'm meant to be fulfilled at all times, shouldn't that then also have, I should feel this way, or I should always be in motion, or I should, and I think part of the universal consciousness playing itself out is the discovery of these things that penetrates what seems to be a contradiction. And there's some mysterious reason and way that because we individuate, there's contrast. And in that contrast, there is the path in and through. And as much as I think I found for myself, as much as I can always step back from when I make something black and white, and stand in the unknown and the mystery, then the mystery can reveal itself. And I bet when you get that inspiration and the angels are doing they're doing some things in your pause, or there's probably something pretty satisfying about that too, even if it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I need to explore this more. I think where it was more uncomfortable in my 20s and my early 30s is, gosh, this is so weird to say out loud, but I always had a feeling when I was a little girl, even though we've got a lot of really long longevity, like my great grandma lived until 105, must be a past life thing, but I always worried that I was going to pass early. And so I remember getting done with a pause and even going to readers and people in my 20s and being like, this means that my life is over now, right? And I remember going in for a couple of sessions and saying that when I was younger, like, okay, well, I did my job, like I came here to do. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. Like you're a soul and you get to continue on and you get to go through experience after experience after experience. So I had to work through that part earlier in my life of coming into a pause doesn't mean that this life is over.
Right, right. And that we get to have many fulfillments in a lot
Yeah.
of different shapes and forms. I would imagine that for somebody, I think we could all apply this, but there's two images that are coming to me that are meaningful at this point with what you're bringing up. The first is when you look at the ocean, and we could easily be on the beach and love the way the waves come. And the wave is a thing. The wave is something, it's like, oh, yes, and it crests, and then it crashes, and we can desire that to never stop. And in taking a step back, even when the waves are not rolling in that same way, is the ocean still, or is it really expressing and being of movement in the deeper waters and the currents and the way the shifts are happening I love, isn't that a fun image?
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yes.
And so even if we're not the cresting wave in a certain moment of our lives, that doesn't mean that the deep waters of us as an ocean aren't doing a lot as well. That's one image. And the other image, I kind of got this image of a painter.
Yeah.
And I would imagine when a painter, which is, it's similar to all of us as creators, but paint is so visceral. When they get the inspiration to paint, and then they go on the journey and they're with the paints and the brushes, and it goes well, and then one day it doesn't go so well and they cover it up, and they're in this whole process of this creation that's got impulse to it because they're inspired. And then finally it comes to its completion. And it doesn't mean then that there's not another painting to come forward after that. Probably that's going to be the wave of their own life, is going to be painting after painting, new form, new shape. Those two images came as you were speaking.
Oh, I love those. Thank you for sharing that. I have a question. You said you kind of explored on the other side, what is freedom? What does freedom mean? And I think that that's such an important question because I almost feel freedom as an emotion, where our soul's highest potential has the best chance of coming to be in this lifetime, when we allow ourselves that freedom by stepping into that highest divine energy where none of the other nonsense here on earth matters.
Right. Or it matters in that it can be held as something very small or something falling short. It's how I talk about it. And that's not to offer a right or a wrong with language. Yes, freedom. I think we are existing in a field of freedom because we couldn't exist if we weren't being brought forward by the divine pulse or breath at each moment. So there's a certain way that it is in freedom that we have our being. And the discovery of that is the surrender over and over again into the unknown, where wordlessly we begin to grasp what freedom is. Because freedom is free of conditions, and we come in as conditioned beings. I mean, we come in a womb, and that's got its own condition right there. And then we come into the collective consciousness. It's got layers of conditions. And we come into a world that's got conditions. And we come in with our own brain that falls short of the mind and the soul, and that's got its conditions. And we're in a field of conditions, but that field of conditions is a malleable pattern that can shift instantaneously. I mean, think about, I'm sure you've experienced radical healings. I've had radical physical healings that have happened with a shift of a perspective or a shift of a trauma going into a healed state. I know I was listening to a Joe Dispenza talk a couple months ago, and he was pointing out the validity of this. He said, one way we've got evidence of this, that we have this capacity to live in this level of freedom, is if you observe somebody that suffers severe schizophrenia, and you see that in that fragmentation of self, that when they slip from one person to another, if they're only two or more than two, they will actually manifest in their bodies and minds the exact personality and emotional and physical things that go with that identity. And he said, what's happening there? How can it be I'm Joe and I'm an athlete, and then I fragment into Bill and all of a sudden I'm in a wheelchair? And I fragment into Sarah and I've got allergies to daisies that I don't have when I'm Joe and Bill. Like he said, that's evidence to us, not of our dysfunction, but of our capacity to energetically be freer and not be limited by the patterns that are the way that we're evolving here. And it's so mysterious. And I know I'm using really big concepts and words around this.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. If you could, just one more question about the NDE, and then I
Sure.
do have like other pieces that I want to go into. You talk about that divine desire, us being divine desire. Wonder if just there's any other words to put to give context to that divine desire.
Mm-hmm.
A real pull from our soul to like want to be here.
There is something I think that's essential, that a soul loves existence because it exists as a soul itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that way of putting it as well. And so it's part of an essential part of who and what we are. And as a soul, if we exist, there is its own meaning inherent. There isn't something we need to do to find meaning. We may need to do things to help wake up to meaning, but it's not a merit-based thing or an act. It's not all on our shoulders. And we tend to think it's all on our shoulders, that figuring it out and working hard. You know, I'm American. I come from the Protestant work ethic. I come from the puritanical roots. I come from the religious fundamentalism. I come from all these collective consciousnesses that have laid up a certain level of idea that we have to do something. Mm-hmm. And in that NDE, it was clear as day I didn't need to do anything, but I naturally wanted to act.
Oh. So really just being you. You just had to exist.
Yes. There was joy. There was a sweetness. There was a simplicity to it. Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen a lot lately as I've been praying, I think, you know, for the last 6 months, I've really been praying, God, who do I need to be at this time? Or who would you have me be at this time in the world? And I saw just this vision of the world. You know, I spend my time in my readings over in that heavenly energy, connecting people to their angels, connecting people to their loved ones, connecting people to what they're showing me is happening over there. And there's just an intensity of gentle, beautiful love that you feel on the other side. And they said, pull it all in here, like pull in as much divine love, this beautiful, gentle, but powerful waterfall of love, like bring it here. And I said, okay, I can do that. You know, like that feels like that really resonates. You have this story, and I'm skipping over the part where you help build churches and, you feel called to do that work. In my prayer with God, I said, well, how do I do this? And God said, storytelling is not going to go away. We have been storytellers for thousands of years, and people need the certainty that comes from those stories. So I heard that you studied the mystics, and I've really been called to mystic saints and different mystics as well. Just got into this over the last month of looking at them because they hold stories that test time, right? Like they've lasted over so many centuries and thousands of years. And I'm wondering, in your work as a spiritual thought leader, where has your work with the mystics brought you in your conscious evolution?
It's along the lines of what you've shared. I love all of my various friends that we would call mystics. They're a big part of my life. They come, aspects of their life give such great testimony to what it means to be a human being. And they witness to it in their experiences, in their poetry, in the thoughts that come forward from their experiences. And even when we look at the story of the life itself, these all give testimony. And it's like the glory of God is being told in form.
Yeah.
And when we lean into our fellow human being friends, there's this way that it can infuse us with a sense they're no different than me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that's part of what I think we're meant to finally learn. It's not like mystics on a pedestal. There's the Holy One, there's the this one. It's that by being touched by the story or the experience, it resonates something within us. And it can't resonate within us if we're not it.
Yeah.
So I think I agree with you. I love storytelling and reading stories and being close to the mystics for that very reason. There's an imparting. It's like realizing, oh my gosh, I've got so many more friends on this journey than what I realize.
Who are some of the mystics that carry with you, or you carry with you, and why?
Mary, Mother of Jesus is a big one. And from when I was little, so much so that I remember one time, we lived on a cul-de-sac with a lot of cute kids and that, and I was a very zealous little girl in that. And I remember bringing my statue of Mary out and setting it up in a garbage can and convincing a few of the girls on the street who weren't Catholic to make up a song and dance with me to sing to Mary, because she was such a big part of my life and I loved her so much and I just wanted to lavish her. And so here I've got, these other young girls doing this. She's been a really big part. It's interesting. I'm going to actually get to lead something in March in the home where they believed she lived her ending years.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
That is incredible.
Like 54 years later,
Yes.
after the start. She's a big piece. And then I was a Carmelite nun, and a lot of the Carmelites are still, even though I don't identify with any faith tradition, and I don't have any affiliations, the Carmelites are still really strong in my friendships. So I just led a workshop on Therese of Lisieux, a beautiful, young, spunky, playful Carmelite mystic who died when she was 24 and came to such real deep realizations of what it means to be divine love. Yeah, really worth your time if you don't know about her. Yeah, and Teresa of Avila is another one, and she's a Carmelite from the 1500s, and John of the Cross. And I just led a retreat in Spain where we went to the places where they wrote their poetry. And the transmission, I think when we get close to mystics, what happens is even as we tell their stories, it's a transmission through us of the divine. I disappear, they may appear, or maybe they disappear as well, and people have the direct experience. Those are a few. And then what happens for me is I experience a lot of mystics coming in and out. So I, like 1 year, and this is, the Dalai Lama is still in form, but years ago, I was 2005 or 6, I was laying in my bed, and on his birthday, he came into my room and kissed my forehead as a blessing. So when we're open to these communions with other beings in form and not in form that identified as human at one point or another, we never know where it's going to go. And I have a lot of mystics that just by, I will go to a place where they lived and bam. And of all different traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sufism, Sikh, like Rabia, a beautiful Muslim saint from the 700s. I have felt a communion with her. So it's unexpected, but for me, it's a very rich tapestry of friends. So I love that you're getting more and more into it. It's really consoling in a world where we can sometimes feel really alone. It's really consoling.
Tell angel stories every Thursday on the podcast, and I just see them as angel stories. There are so many mystics who had so many great spiritual gifts, and they heard directly from God, and others on the other side, they saw angels themselves. They had near-death experiences, and they came back and they used it. And I think that every single one of their stories is just such a powerful way shower to us of, what our life could be.
I love that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Kimberly, so take me through your choice to step away from being a Carmelite nun. It's interesting because when I was a little girl, grew up going to Catholic school, and when the nuns would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" First, it was a priest. Then I realized that I was a woman. So
I've done that. I've been there. I get you.
Nun. Yeah. And then I realized, well, then I can't have a family. And so I've molded and adapted to the constraints of this world. But take me through what that experience was like from you and how you chose that to kind of step away from it.
Well, first of all, for you listening, my 4th book will have the fuller story of this in it.
Ooh,
so make sure. I have 3 books published, but the 4th will come out probably in a year or 2. And just remember that book is going to go into much juicier detail.
Okay.
I will preface it by one thing. When I took my vows as a Carmelite, it still remains one of the happiest days of my life. It was so ecstatic. What it meant, the symbol and the portal that it was incredible. So when I took those vows, I never, ever thought I was going to leave. Mm-hmm. Not from determination and commitment and that, just from sheer love. Mm-hmm. Sheer joy, childlike joy. So I was so happy it was not going to end in this lifetime. I mean, I was so happy. It was really awesome. So you have to situate that never occurred to me. So when I did leave, I had no idea much earlier than my leaving that I was going to leave. And what happened was, by the time I was in solemn vows, that's vows for life, and I moved from the mother house in North Dakota, and I was in a new little foundation that was struggling to make it. There were only 4 nuns there. They needed a young, zealous nun. I was asked to go. I had a vision of Mary. Mary spoke to me and asked me to go. And so I was there, assuming I was going to be scrubbing toilets and cooking meals. And so when the download came to build the monastery, and that flowed through me, I did not know that what was happening at the same time was I was expanding in a way through the project for 3 years that it was like the tilling of my own soil was happening for a new choice. And I didn't know that because it wouldn't have entered my mind. And religious life, like any lifestyle, has a lot of pros and cons. It has a lot of dark and light. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not that life was always a bed of roses, but I just never, on an essence level, it was out of my consciousness to even think about it. And it was about 5 months before the dedication of the project, the monastery, that I had a massive illumination. And it's too long a story to tell here. And in that illumination, one of the byproducts, unsolicited, was I was washed of my vows. Unsought. It came through the crown of my head. There was a vision of a beautiful being before me. And in this whoosh, there was a divine desire that rose up, not like it came from me, but from being gifted to me in a way. And nothing in that experience said leave or anything. But the byproduct of having been washed of my vows, which was my whole love, was all of a sudden the next day I'm walking around and I'm like, I'm not even a Carmelite anymore. It was very dramatic and all encompassing. And what it did is then it did away with the whole reason I was there.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking around wearing the habit, shaved head, doing my thing, loving the prayer and meditation, loving many things, but also I wasn't Carmelite anymore. And so in that, being washed of my vows, new things began to shift and move. And then less than a year later, I found myself leaving. You have to write to Rome, which is a pretty interesting process, worthy of a whole story. You write to Rome to get permission to leave by the Pope, who's never even met you. So it's kind of interesting.
Do they say no? What happens if they say no?
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, there's no way this guy says no. He'd have 1 million lawsuits on his hands. I mean, it had to have been a symbol. It had to have been. But I was a young religious. I mean, I wouldn't have been privy to, because you live in silence. You don't really know all these workings. You just know what your steps are that you have to do. So I got a permission to leave, but I stayed Carmelite because there's a way I could leave the monastery, but remain committed as a Carmelite and sift through things. Wow. And that was my original intention, because I thought, well, certainly, maybe I'm meant to be Carmelite in a different way. I didn't know, because I wasn't leaving because I heard a call like, go serve these people or go do this. It was just so purely, almost like my NDE, so purely, my next step in love was to leave.
Yeah.
So it was a yes into. It was not a no to something. It was a yes into. Yeah. And everything lined up smoothly. And I left on a beautiful feast day. I left on June 9th, which is the feast day of Therese being interpenetrated by divine love and writing her act of oblation to merciful love.
Wow. So
I left for that not for that reason, but I left on that feast day. So,
beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Kimberly, we're going to have you back. I could just spend hours with you. Please tell everybody where they can find your beautiful books and your website.
Thank you. Everything about me can be found on my website, KimberlyBraun.com. I have 3 books. My 3rd one is on Audible, me reading it. So if you like my voice, you can hear it with me. My website is a great place to see everything presently that I'm doing in the world.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for all the work that you do. And just know, I don't know if you feel energy palpably, but every time I'm with you, oh my gosh, it's like you're a sun, and I just feel your radiance.
Thank Thank you. That definitely amplifies the heat I'm already feeling.
Oh,
Nice and in my body. Thank you.
oh, of course. To everybody listening, thank you so much for being here. Friends, I need your help reaching as many people as possible. If you'd like to support this podcast and help us spread more hope to the world, please book a session with me, join my Angel membership, or take my Angel Reiki School. What's the difference? If you'd like to know what messages your angels and loved ones have for you, you'll want to book a session with me. The Angel membership is all about your own personal spiritual healing. The membership takes you on a spiritual journey that teaches you how to create your own heaven on earth. And the Angel Reiki School is for those who want to get certified in mediumship, angel messages, and energy healing all at once. These are 3 ways you can help us share a message of hope and love with more people than ever before. Register for one or all 3 at theangelmedium.com. That's theangelmedium.com. Now, let's pray together. As we do, I want you to pray in a way where you feel as though everything you want for yourself and the world has already come true, and you're giving thanks. Why? Because this is the best way to manifest. So let's begin. God, universe, source, thank you. We're so grateful that you've blessed this world with calm and peace for all. This calm and peace has spread like ripples, soothing the hearts of every soul. Thank you for opening our hearts to abundance, allowing each of us to live our most authentic life, and helping us to create our own heaven on earth. We thank you for the love and deep heart-to-heart connection that surrounds us every day in our relationships. We thank you for the abundance of health and aliveness we feel radiating from every cell in our and our families' bodies. Thank you for the gift of walking this life with us and guiding us every step of the way through your messages. We hear you through our own intuition, and we feel you walking right by our sides, and we overflow with gratitude. Thank you for financial abundance, an abundance of opportunities and miracles, blessings, and prosperity in every way. We know that you want us to succeed so that we can show others how you want them to succeed too. Thank you for the boundless love, kindness, empathy, and compassion that binds us all together. Thank you for the laughter, fun, moments of pure delight that fill us every day, especially today. God, universe, source, thank you for blessing us beyond measure and allowing us to use our souls, gifts, talents, skills, and abilities to serve the world. We love you. I love you. And in this we pray. Amen. Friends, we're working on some pretty major things over here. And if you wouldn't mind saying a little prayer that these things come to fruition if they're God's will, we'd so appreciate it. And please add a little prayer in for any specific thing you need right now too. Have a beautiful, blessed day.